Celtics Beat is brought to you by PrizePicks.
Today's Friday, July 18th, and this is Celtics Beat on the CLNS Media Network, the leading online provider of audio-video coverage of the Boston Celtics. I'm Adam Kaufman. Episode 633 features the Athletics' Jared Weiss.
And I'm Evan Valenti, and today's show is powered by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the official daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media. Download the app today. Use the promo code CLNS and get $50 instantly after you play $5.
Hey everyone, new Celtics Beat. Great to be here with you. It is mid-July. That means August is coming, and I say that only because, I don't know, Celtics are the team that does weird things in August. But I don't know how weird it's going to get. How truly, like, let's think about it. Like, the weirdest thing would have been like, well, he's still out there. Is he going to sign with him? And boom, Damian Lillard to Boston. That's not happening. Damian Lillard is, to me, relatively shockingly, going back to Portland. Adam Kaufman, Evan Valenti. Jared Weiss is here with us from The Athletic. He has been on this show, Celtics Beat, a number of times. He has hosted this show over the years as well. So it is great to have the three of us here together to dissect all of this. I'm sure a lot of the Summer League junkies want to get into that. The 3-1 start out of Boston, we will get there. And Hugo Gonzalez or Hugo Gonzalez or Hugo Gonzalez or all of these men, I think they are the same guy, but we have to begin, of course, guys, with Damian Lillard, who got.
Hold on a minute.
What? Go ahead.
I got to give you a little flag, a little shit for.
Okay.
You know, it's mid-July, which means August comes next. Like, that's a shocking revelation. Anybody, the calendar like doesn't work that way.
No, I mean because like I don't know. I feel like
is it that dry right now? Is it that dead in the NBA? Like, it's mid-July, which means August is coming.
Well, but meaning like that's what I expect. Like Anfernee Simons is getting traded. Like it's not happening in July; it's happening in August because that's how it works with Brad and with Danny. That's kind of where I was going with that. But it's not going to be this big monumental thing of Dame because Dame's going home. He got the guys. I mean, he cashed in far more. I mean, we were no wonder Damian Lillard didn't want to come to Boston on a minimum deal when he could go back to Portland on a 3-year, $42 million contract, according to Shams Charania. And just Shams he must have been bored yesterday. He sent 75 tweets about this deal, including Lillard having a salary this upcoming year where he is not going to play because of his, Achilles injury. $70 million he's being paid between Portland and Milwaukee. A salary of $141 over the next 2 years ahead of the opt-out in 2027. But of course, it's fun. It's storybook. It's a little weird because who knows the direction of these Portland Trailblazers right now. Just when you think you know what they're doing, they go and they spend all this money on Dame. I've seen memes of, like Michael Caine and Christian Bale at the end of, the third Batman movie at like Dame and Drew Holiday seeing each other in the locker room for the first time after the trade. Fun stuff, obviously. But look, I've rambled enough. Jared, welcome to the show. And did you think that Dame was going to go, do something like this versus landing with a contender?
Yeah, so I was told last week that he was going to be going there, and the main reason why is it's family. He went to Milwaukee, was away from his kids, he was going through a divorce, and he was really unhappy being away. And so I was told from the outset that it was highly likely that Portland was the destination because he just wanted to be back around his kids. And I mean, good for him that's the impetus. And then also he's somehow getting paid $70 million. He's somehow going to be like, what is he, like the third or fourth highest paid player in the NBA at this point? Or is he the highest? I don't even remember, but like, this is a kind of a crazy coup for him to get waived and stretched and still end up being paid more. It's like kind of remarkable. And then in Portland, he has so much goodwill there that he can slowly recover. He can take his time. He doesn't have to be great once he comes back, and they're still going to love him. Like he's going to be the chosen one no matter what. And then also like Portland, because of Scoot, because of Sharp, because of Holiday, they have so much depth in the guard position that it takes a lot of pressure off of him to really like dominate when he gets back, and he can kind of recover on his own timeline. So this checks out for him in so many ways. And I don't think he was going to go anywhere and be like the clear over the top piece that was going to make that team a championship team, but he was probably going to join a contender and he'd probably push them towards the top. So with Portland, they have enough talent there that if he can come back and really be himself, they do have a legit chance to contend.
So there was obviously some Celtics interest. There's been reports throughout the summer that there was interest between the Celtics and Dame and the Celtics, blah, blah, blah. Some things came out about maybe Tatum was trying to recruit Dame to the Celtics. They have a little bit of a friendship there. How real was any of this, considering the Portland thing, obviously, with the money and him going back home was, as you said, like clearly was going to happen last week. It was just a matter of time. How real did this feel in terms of the Celtics trying to bring Dame back into the fold with the Celtics?
Well, they made him an offer from everything we've heard, so that's as real as it gets. Like, yeah, they tried. It was kind of a no-brainer, right? Like, how do you not offer the mid-level exception to him and give him a year to rehab back home in Portland and bring him over? Like, that would have been a complete game changer for them. Like, it would have been the saving panacea for this crumbling, dynasty here, that they could have gotten another elite shooter in the door. I mean, that just would have been unbelievable. But I don't think the money was going to be a factor. Right? I think he wanted to go home. He wanted to be back around his family, be back where he lives. He wanted to be happy. He just wasn't happy in Milwaukee. And I don't think it was Milwaukee's fault. I think it was just that it was his life situation. And so he needed to prioritize that. And that's what he cared about. And so I don't think Boston probably ever really had a chance as long as Portland was in the mix.
I didn't want to go down this road until you just said that last little bit, but I can't help but feel some comparisons to, like, you're just giving me like shades of Kyrie Irving in his 2 years in Boston of, it wasn't necessarily Boston's fault. He just had a lot going on in his personal life and it didn't really work out and he wanted to go home and all of it's just, this stuff feels very similar. When we look at this, very short Giannis Dame era there in Milwaukee, and I know it's a Celtics show, not a Bucks show, but the fact that didn't work out and, so many moves were made or have been made to kind of accommodate Giannis, who still doesn't seem to be happy with what is going on there in the direction of that organization. Do you kind of feel that same way? Do you look at it and say that, man, like, this is a little bit of what could have been? I think there are some people that look at the Kyrie Irving era in Boston. Gordon Hayward's injury played a huge part into this as well. But the what could have been fact, do you see a what could have been in Milwaukee that was, ruined in part either by injuries or the fact that Dame just mentally wasn't fully engaged?
Yeah, I mean, the similarities are pretty slim in that Kyrie was like a total asshole when he was in Boston to so many people. And it's funny because now Kyrie is like in such a better place, and he's like, the last few times I've talked to him, like, it was wonderful. It was great to talk to him, and he was like kind of the guy you always wanted to see. He was going through a really hard time when he was in Boston, and he handled it as poorly as he could have. And as much as we can forgive and understand Kyrie for the difficult time he was going through, he also handled it very poorly. And as a public figure, you do have a responsibility to conduct yourself in a compassionate and decent manner, even when you are justifiably hating the nature of celebrity and going through your own personal problems. Like, you still need to be decent to people. Like, I've been going through my shit at different points of my life. I was still treated people well. And, like, I'm not quite as famous as Kyrie. I would say I'm not even negative 99% as famous as Kyrie. I don't think that works mathematically, but that's part of my problem. It's why I'm not famous. I don't understand how math works. And so, Dame, he was graceful. He's always been graceful. He's always been relatively humble, like relatively quiet, or maybe he just seems that way because his voice is very quiet. He doesn't make facial expressions. But Dame, I think, did his best in Milwaukee and was good. Like, it wasn't like he took a huge step back in his career last year. Like, he had a good year. That team just never got in sync, and then obviously, like, he got hurt. And so, if he never got hurt, I think Milwaukee would have looked better in the playoffs, and we probably would have had a slightly better taste in our mouths about how that season went. But because he was so hurt in the postseason, they just kind of looked like crap, and they also had no depth behind him. So I think that season of Milwaukee went better than it appears in hindsight. But obviously, like, everybody could tell, like, he wasn't fully engaged there and quite the same as he usually was. And you would hear behind closed doors that he missed Portland and he missed being around his kids and all that stuff.
You seem to be a sort of a believer in the fit if it were to have happened. Like if they had found a way to bring Dame in and he was happy and content with coming to Boston. What it seemed like if you brought him in, there'd be some gymnastics of trying to clear the space and the money so he could fit into what they do, blah, 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 blah. Do you think that would have been really worth it to, I know they're trying to, there's still stuff to be done, but you think that would have been worth it considering his age coming off the injury, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh yeah, the MLE for Damian Lillard, even a shell of himself, would be like unreal. Because let's say Dame comes back in a year and he doesn't move very well, and all the kind of classic Achilles stuff. He's still an elite shooter. He is still a smart downhill driver who can run pick and roll. Like he's still a 20-point per game scorer coming off of that Achilles injury. So no brainer. No brainer. It's like I know you're legally bound to ask me this question because of the fancy chair you're sitting in, Mr. Valenti, but that's the dumbest question I'm probably going to hear all day. Like, yeah, Damian Lillard for the mid-level exception, even if he had to have a foot amputated, would still be probably worth it.
Well, I think where Ev's coming from with the question wasn't like, yeah, is he worth the money? Of course he's worth the money. Again, look what he's being paid right now. But you project ahead a year. He's healthy. Tatum's healthy. Presumably you have Brown, you have White, you have Pritchard, you have whatever the roster looks like around them. It's just like it's the whole, like there's one basketball, right? And so I think when he's talking about the fit, I mean, on court, like do you think it would have worked? I mean, it didn't really work in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think it would have worked because one, Dame would be what was he gonna be, like 35 now or something like that, recovering from an Achilles, knowing that he's not in position to be the guy like he was before. He would have to accept a step back. He's going to have to accept a step back in Portland. He's not going to be dominating the ball the way he did the first time he was in Portland. He's not going to be physically capable of handling that all night, every single night. And so, I don't think, I didn't get the sense that there was some sort of like I can't play my role issue in Milwaukee. He went to Milwaukee knowing that it was Giannis's team. And they just never quite found a sync in how to run their two-man action consistently throughout a game. While in Boston, it would be a very different scenario, right? Like they're a very different roster composition. They run different sets. They would adapt their offense to accommodate for him. Like Mazzulla's good at adapting his offense for his roster, and we're probably going to see that this season because they're going to have to run a very different system this year now that they lost half their team. So I think Dame would have fit in just fine, knowing Tatum and Brown have established themselves as the guys here. I think his role would be similar to D. White. Like, at this point of their careers, him and D. White are probably very similar offensive players. I actually wonder if, coming off the injury, if him and D. White are going to be the same level of caliber offensive players, but the same kind of, I hate this word, but shot diet. Those quick little like pull up pick and roll threes, the spot up threes that are really quick catch and release, like stuff like that. That's what D. White does, and it's like really similar to how Lillard operates. I actually think the one thing about not getting Dame is that White is like such a similar player that it's not like Lillard would be adding something completely novel to the offense. He would just be layering on more of that and doing it at his level, which obviously is as high as it gets.
So they don't get Dame. Celtics don't get Dame. We have some time before the regular season. Do you anticipate anything happening with the roster construction of this team, or is this more of a they're gonna let the dust settle? They'll play the season. We'll see what they really need and what else is going on around the league, and then they'll strike later in like January-ish and try and make changes that way. Is this set, you think, at this point?
No, they're still working to get off of Simons and Yang. Like they're still trying to make that stuff happen. They never did a press conference, did they?
Nope.
You know why you do that? If you're still trying to trade somebody.
Yang did go to the Fever Sun game, though.
It's true. So at least he's showing some love to some basketball teams in New England. They're still trying to make those moves. That's the most telltale sign is like if you don't have a presser for the guy, you very clearly are trying to move him still. We had Garza and Minot talk out in Vegas, and those guys didn't talk. Like, it's very clear they're still trying to make moves, and that was the rumblings that I was hearing at Summer League. I think our friend Jake Fisher just reported there was some talks in Memphis last week at some point. They're still trying to figure out what that is. I'm not sure what that is yet, but Memphis is another team that makes sense that they want to keep, wheeling and dealing. And obviously after trading Bane, they could use Simons' skill set. So, they have to get rid of some guys. They have to get under the second apron officially. They need to even give themselves a little bit of leeway if they want to make some moves here. I mean, shit, they could get rid of Simons and they can get rid of Niang, and they could get Jonathan Kuminga. Like, they could go for Josh Giddey. Like, they can still get involved in the restricted market. I would imagine that's part of the reason why those guys haven't gotten their restricted free agency resolved yet. It's because the Celtics are one of a few teams that still could get in the mix on them. Because, this always happens with restricted free agents is they miss the boat and then they linger forever. And, nowadays, cap space isn't a thing anymore. Free agency is all done in trade exceptions. It's trade agency now. And you're basically looking around the league and you're looking at who has a trade exception. What would the team I'm with accept in order to make that salary dump happen? Can they make it happen? And, the Celtics have been smart and they've been stockpiling second round picks and they've been replenishing that stockpile over and over the last few seasons because they know that if you want to participate in trade agency, you have to have those second round picks as bait to be able to achieve those deals. And we just saw that happen in the Niang deal to dump Porzingis. So they have the ammo if they want to get involved in the RFA market. I haven't heard anything about them going after Kuminga or Giddey in particular, so I'm not reporting that. And I'm not sure how much Kuminga makes sense for them, but just the talent level he has, they might as well. And if they'd rather bet on him than Simons, which makes sense because I know we think Simons is 22 years old, but he's really 26 years old, and he's really kind of at his peak at this point. At least Kuminga, there's a very nice projection you can see there for him taking a leap. And they're in a position as a franchise where if they can do something like that, that would be great. But I don't expect that to happen, but that's just kind of showing the possibilities here of what they could do if they're able to move Simons and Niang.
Let's take a quick break, tell you about our good friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. That's right, 2,000x. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks.
Kaufman, we talk about every week the flex play, which, again, if you have been living under a rock or haven't been paying attention, flex play means if you only get 2 out of 3, you can still win money. Very important, very big for what I do personally, because, again, I usually get 2 out of 3. I don't always get 3 out of 3, but last week, Kaufman, little summer league flex play, your boy did go 3 for 3 that day. Just want to let you know out there in the world.
Nice work. Nice work.
That's the phones calling in to try.
You know what it is? That's the PrizePicks people saying, slow down, stop winning so much.
You're taking all of our money. So with that in mind,
we got to be able to still pay for these sponsorships, these endorsements. Don't bankrupt us, Valenti.
I know. I did well this year. It was a good year. So with that in mind, we are going to just give 3 more. 3 more ready for you for the summer league. 3 more stat lines that we like. We're going to start with, this is for Friday night. It's going to start with Bronny James. We're going to go less than 1.5 made 3-pointers. We're going to start there. Then we're going to go Drew Timme, Gonzaga's favorite, although we're going to have 2 Zags in here. Drew Timme, more than 20.5 points. He's averaging 25 in the summer league, so that's good. And then the last one we're going to do, my favorite, your favorite, America's favorite, Ryan Nembhard. Everybody
loves Ryan
this guy.
Become Andrew, America's favorite.
I love Ryan Nembhard, man.
Is he a cowboy?
Him being good and serviceable was the most predictable thing in all of sports. Ryan Nembhard, more than 6.5 assists. Look, he's averaging that number every game so far. So I'm going to take the more than, because I like to be more fun. I don't like to root for people not to get assists. So we're going to go more than there. So again, Bronny, less than 1.5 threes made. Timme, more than 20.5 points. And then Nembhard, more than 6.5 assists. Flex play gets you 3x, 2 out of 3, 1x. That's a winner for me, baby. We love it. And again, if you want to deposit your money into your bank account, your actual bank account, PrizePicks makes it easier than any other one out there. You can use Venmo, for crying out loud. How quick is Venmo? We all know how quick it is. It's super easy. PrizePicks makes it painless for everyone, Kaufman.
I can tell you what, man. I've been doing a lot of prize picks in the WNBA in recent weeks. People smarter than me. I'm blind tailing people that really know what they're doing here. But we're putting together some three-leggers, if you will. At they're all the plus 200, and easy example, $10 pays out 30 kind of situation, and just cranking those things out, building up the bankroll. You love to see it. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. The promo code is CLNS. You get $50 right away after playing your first lineup of only $5. PrizePicks. Run your game.
Just a quick reminder, everybody, that make sure you subscribe to the show on whatever you get your podcasts on, like whether it's iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get them. Make sure you subscribe, you like it, you leave a review, and if you're watching the show on our YouTube channel, again, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the Celtics All Access YouTube channel. You can find our show, a bunch of other great Celtics content all the time. Again, at our Celtics All Access YouTube channel, and make sure you turn your notifications on so you can see when new shows are dropping.
We're back here with Jared Weiss, and look, what you just outlined, I think is actually a fascinating conversation and helps sort of, I don't know, maybe manipulates it a little bit better or in a better way than a lot of people are having it. There are a lot of people that are having the conversation. We've had this conversation on this show in weeks past about, are the Celtics looking to get off of Simons? They're looking to get off of Niang. They're looking to get off the money, right? It's okay, they're below the second apron, but let's keep going down. Let's, remove ourselves from as many possible tax penalties and the like. And look, it's not my money. It's not impacting my life in any way. You want to talk about the second apron penalties and issues being restrictive, and that's fine. I get it. I understand the need for kind of a reset there that, most every team in the NBA in its own way is going to go through. It's just the Celtics are, one of, if not the first. And so that's why we're so fixated here locally, especially, maybe even nationally, on what Boston is doing, because it's the beginning of really feeling the effects of this CBA that is in place for the next, handful of years or so. But I think sort of a modified conversation, as you were just alluding to, like, I'm interested in Anfernee Simons being in a Celtics uniform and watching him, understanding full well that he's probably peaked, but that's fine. This team needs offense. They don't have Jason Tatum. They got to make it up somewhere. And I think that he would fit in well to Missoula's system. I would like to see it. I'd like to see him in the green jerseys and all of these other weird alts out there and participating in a Boston uniform until they inevitably deal him at the deadline or something like that. But I just want to see what he can contribute. However, where I don't want to get rid of Simons just to get off the money. Like if you said, yeah, they're trading Anfernee Simons and they're getting draft picks in return, like that does not interest me in the least. I still want to watch a competitive team. But if you're telling me this team that has so many issues in the front court is getting rid of him and you're finding a way to bring in Jonathan Kuminga, that I'm on board for in a heartbeat. I would love to say I like Kuminga. I enjoyed watching him in Golden State. I think he's a good young player, obviously. A lot of the things you talked about already. I'd be absolutely, sign me up, because this team ultimately does have significant issues in the front court where, I mean, can we realistically, Jared, be seeing giant minutes? And I realize I guess we can if it's just a mail it in sort of pseudo tank season, but giant minutes out of Niang or Kada or, Amari Williams or, no, I get something with some level of experience in the door to participate in your starting group and see the bulk of the minutes anyway. So that's kind of where I fall on Simons. He intrigues me, but he's not this end all be all if you can upgrade in a different area.
Yeah, and let's be clear. I don't think Kuminga is coming to Boston. That's just more of like a placeholder to explain the kind of versatility they still have in their and the things that they can do. I think the primary objective is to try to get below the tax line, which is what makes sense. If you're not competing in the NBA, you're not supposed to pay the tax. They can get out of the tax, they can keep their guys together, and then they can take a step forward next season when Tatum comes back. That makes the most sense. That's the smartest. That's the smartest move that they can make. I don't think this team needs Simons to be who they want to be this season, which is a play-in team probably that can at least continue to develop some of their guys, get Peyton Pritchard to continue to take a step forward, get Jaylen Brown to show he's this superstar that he's talking about, where he can show that he can do everything out there, to get Luka Garza to be a rotation level big, I guess. And obviously we'll talk about these young guys at Summer League. They don't have anybody in the pipeline that projects to be a starting caliber player. Right now they don't have anyone that projects to be even a rotation caliber player in that pipeline. So they should be focusing this season on getting Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh these minutes so that they can actually grow, letting Hugo Gonzalez get a feel for how to be an NBA player. They got to do some development here. They always probably needed to do some development here. Also, I'm curious to see if Sam Hauser could be a starter. We've seen what he can do. He obviously he plateaued early in his career, and he's just been good ever since then. So let's see if he can do a little bit more with a bigger role. But Simons is this interesting thing because he would be on a much better team than he's ever been on in the past, and he would have less responsibility to organize the offense than he's ever had before, which he's never been able to do effectively. So you put him on this team where you already have D. White, Peyton Pritchard, and Jaylen Brown. Maybe he actually plays really well because his role's very limited to the things that he does very well. I'd be really interested to see that, and I think that the Celtics are looking at this summer as we'd like to get under the tax. That's our main goal. But if we have to go into the season with Simons, we'll let it rock, and we'll see what we can get out of him. And he's someone that they've, some of the people in the front office have liked in the past when he was kind of coming into the league. And I think everyone's been a little disappointed in that his development kind of flattened out earlier than we expected, and he didn't quite take that step to being a 23 point per game scorer like we hoped that he could become. But he still has the talent, and I'd like to see what he could do on this team. So it would be good if they could at least keep him around and then move him on the deadline, because don't forget, your tax situation's not settled till the end of the season. So they don't have to do anything right now. It's easier to do things in the offseason, but they can get off of him later in the year.
Yeah, I do want to shift gears a little bit because you brought up Jaylen Brown as, comments he's made about how he's sacrificed, and nobody's saying that he hasn't. In order to be on a championship level team, everybody on the team has kind of sacrificed a little bit. But I am kind of curious about what this looks like for Jaylen as the lead guy on a team, trying to kind of do everything. I mean, Tatum's been that guy, for a couple of years now of being the focal point of everything, and Jaylen has done a good job of in his development becoming a little bit of a better distributor. But a lot of that you would notice 2 years ago. Him and KP had a great little 1-2 synergy going on. And now that KP's gone, Holiday's gone, some of the ancillary parts that make your life a lot easier as a playmaker and as a lead guy, those things are gone. What are you expecting out of Jaylen Brown, lead guy for the first time in his career on a team that's doesn't have as good of a talent that it's had the past couple of years?
29 points per game.
Hell yeah.
29.2 points per game.
Yeah.
Let's see that.
Very specific.
There are two Jaylen Browns. There's game 5 against the Knicks, and there's game 6 against the Knicks. Which one are we going to get? We'll see. I think we're going to get both a lot throughout the season. It is concerning that he has knee surgery before the biggest season of his career load-wise, so they're probably going to have to manage that a lot. This man has not gotten through a lot of seasons healthy. And that I think that was when we were having these debates for so long about who's better between him and JT. I think a huge thing in JT's house was that he was always healthy, always healthy. He never really missed time. It was very rare. He played through everything. You can't play through an Achilles tear, unfortunately, so I guess that's going to have to end. But JB played through as many things, but he picked up so many small injuries along the way. And obviously, he had that wrist tear in 2021. Was that 2021? The pandemic kind of melted my brain, but I think it was 2021. And Jaylen this year, I think, is going to be pushing for second team All NBA, and he probably will get pretty close to it depending on how the season goes. He is going to show his playmaking has gotten a lot better. Like a lot better. And I think because Tatum ascended to like true elite level playmaker these past few years, JB has kind of gone a little bit under the radar, and that he's improved into, I'd say, an above average playmaker, if not a good playmaker. Like his ability to draw to and kick and both the pick and roll, and when he drives into the hole, those kickouts he's making are really good. He's making a lot of smart wraparound reads. His just pace control attacking has gotten so much better. Jaylen has improved holistically as a playmaker to the level that you would want out of your star wing. Like I think he's a good all-around star wing now in every single facet. There's no part of his game that I think is a real detriment. His shooting has been pretty mediocre these last few years, and so has Tatum's, and that's kind of held them back a little bit. I mean, it didn't hold them back too much. They didn't win a championship about as easily as we've ever seen, so they still are doing pretty well, but like he's been shooting like crap for a while, and so has Tatum. And I'm really curious to see with this increased workload, is he going to shoot 29% from three next season or 38% from three next season? Because if he's shooting that high from three, he's going to score 30 a night. And he's going to look like second team All-NBA. And they're going to keep winning. And they're going to win 48, 50 games if he can keep doing that. I don't expect that to happen. I do expect him to have a great year. But, he's motivated. He's really motivated, and we saw, like, in that Game 5, when the Ewing theory thing happened, he played insanely well, right? Like, he had one of the best games of his career because that lift, that spark really pushed him. Will that happen for an entire year now with Tatum gone? I think he'll have enough to prove, especially because he's known he's been in trade rumors forever, and he knows that there's a chance that he could get moved and that they kind of that they blow this whole thing up. And so I think he's going to be advertising himself, being like, "L.A., you want your long-term future alongside Luka. How about somebody better than Luka? And his name is Jaylen Brown, and he could dunk. Like, maybe that's how he sees it. I think either way, Jaylen's always been very committed to the city and to this franchise, even though I don't think it's been reciprocated in the same way. And I don't think that's quite like as bad as people make it out to be. Like, yeah, they've shopped him many times, but most guys that aren't a top 5 player in the NBA get shopped these days. That's just how it works. And so I think the marriage has gone well, and Jaylen's just not afraid to complain and speak his mind. And that's his right to do, and it keeps us entertained. He gives us topics to talk about, so we can't be too upset about it. But I think this is going to be a great year for Jaylen. I think this is going to be the year where you look at his basketball reference page and you're like, what the hell happened that year? That must have been the year JT went down. It was the year JT went down. Isn't that right, my little cyborg child? Because, it's the year 2050 and I'm done with real children. And so, this is cyborg Jaylen's year.
So I'm pulling up Jaylen Brown's stats as well, and it was 3 years ago that he averaged about 27 points per game. That was the 2022-23 season, and he shot almost 50%. He was around 34% from three, averaged about 7 rebounds. That was a career high as well. The assists were, at the time a career high, but obviously he took that big leap forward last year. I think that guy's been around for nearly a decade. He's been a finals MVP, an Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Like, Jaylen Brown's body of work at this point really should speak for itself. But this, and forgive the obviousness of this statement, but this is a massively important year for him in the sense that, I think a lot of people, for one, who just look at, the dollars and don't look at the whole percentage of cap thing when it comes to contracts. People thought it was like blasphemy when he signed that huge contract a couple of years ago and became the highest paid player in the NBA for 5 minutes and all of that stuff. And it was, that then you start to have these debates of what could he be without Jason Tatum? And is he a 30-point per game guy on a bad team and all of that? And it's like this year, I just feel like, and you outlined a lot of it, but we're going to find out, or at least to some degree, we're going to find out, does number one Jaylen Brown exist? For all the people that wanted to have those Tatum versus Brown discussions, those 1A versus 1B versus a true versus a 2, like a true 1 versus 2 kind of thing. All of that, it's gonna play out for us here. And I guess the thing that I wonder, and I'm more inclined to believe a lot of what you're saying, that he's going to have a better year than he is a bad one, whether that means 29, 30 points per game versus, it better not be 25, 26. when he has scored more than that when he's had Jason Tatum alongside him. And I get that their presence makes life easier for one another. But at the same time, if you're going to be the guy, you better be the guy, even on a bad team or a mediocre team or whatever this team winds up being. I guess what I wonder is when everything sort of returns to normal a year from now, all right, you're fitted right back to, you're Robin to Batman and all of that stuff. If, and this is a huge if, Jason Tatum is what he was before the injury, and we just don't know. How much does this year determine Jaylen Brown's future in Boston to you?
62.3%.
It's exact. Good.
Yeah. I mean, I had to run
real takes today.
Yeah.
I had to run
29.2 on the points, 62.3 on the percentage. Okay.
Yeah, we have to take the quotient of his 22-23 shot attempts, and then you have to divide that by turnovers this year. And what that tells you is that we're presuming Tatum is Batman when he comes back. The history of Achilles recoveries would tell me that you're more of a Robin when you come back for that first season. That it's generally a 2-year process until you get back to 100%. So JB, the B does stand for Batman this year. It's Jaylen Batman right now, and could be Jaylen Batman again next year. I don't think Jaylen sees this as he's playing for anything besides his greatness and whatever that means a year from now. The Celtics are best off keeping 2 max quality players together as long as they can, and that's if they think they're competing. If this season goes poorly and they don't think that Tatum is going to be back to superstar status a year from now, then maybe they look at this as we need to do a couple years reset here, and we get off of Jaylen so we can get some big young stud in the door, or get a couple like really good young pieces and try to find a way to acquire a good draft pick, and we rebuild for like 27, 28 when Tatum is like fully in his peak. And we can load up again, and we can kind of have like a nice build up for a couple years right there. So I could see them doing that, but otherwise, I just don't. I've never believed that it made sense to go away from JB and JT. I think we're so conditioned to think that that's a viable strategy for so long because so many people erroneously stated that they don't fit together. And I'm pretty sure people don't say that stuff anymore now that they've won their championship. I was writing pieces like 5 years ago being like, what's wrong with you people? Are you not watching these games? Like, they're very different players. They're very complementary wings. They do the 2 different types of wing modalities that we see in the NBA. And it really grew into that. And now that they've overlapped a little bit more, it's made them a great team because they both were well-rounded players. But they're different. Like, their drive cadence is different. Their shot selection is different. Their peak skills are different. Like, they complement each other well, man. Like, you don't get this. Like, the Clippers tried for so years to make it happen. Never happened with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And now teams are going away from this dual wing model because the talent in the league is really concentrated towards bigs and point guards. And so the Celtics, they get to still be a bit of an outlier here, whereas teams evolve more towards 7'6" point centers and, and lightning quick point guards. Like, they can be a different type of build with their dual wing approach. And that's good because they want to be different. Like, you want to be able to zag when everybody's zigging. So they should hold on to this. Like, as long as it works, they should hold on to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brad has made it pretty clear. And again, we talk about what you can believe, what you can't believe. Kaufman, you've been saying this for years. Brad usually tells you what he's thinking, pretty blunt, pretty upfront about it. And he talked a lot about how he likes, he does these two have won an awful lot of games together. So I think we want to keep doing that kind of stuff, which I think is valuable. Kaufman, how excited are you for the Jaylen Brown lead man experience? Because I know I'm looking forward to it as just to see what he can do with the reins for a whole season. And obviously not a ton of Boston. There's always going to be pressure. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be pressure on guys, but at the same time, like, nobody's expecting a championship this year. We kind of all know what's going on here. So
sure.
with probably the least amount of pressure that Jaylen's had in a long time to kind of be, to figure himself out and see what he can really do as a lead guy. I'm like kind of revved up for it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, like Jared mentioned the knee. Let's see what that looks like, obviously. But, I'm interested. I'm excited. I said this before. I feel like this is one of those things that we, in a way, have been talking about for years, and we never really wanted to see it because the way that we were going to see it was either he was going to be traded and play elsewhere, or Tatum was going to be hurt. So, there was no like good avenue to sort of wish this sample size, a larger sample size, into our lives. But yeah, like it or not, we're going to get it now, and I think I'm really fascinated to see what it looks like. I think that Jared said this before, the whole game 5 versus game 6 thing against the Knicks. I think it's going to be, I would love for it to be some level of, have some level of consistency. I think it's going to be a real I think it's going to be I think it's going to be maddeningly inconsistent, the performances that we're going to get out of Jaylen Brown when he is the focal point in this offense. I think the points are ultimately going to, probably hover around 27, 28. I don't think he averages 30. I think the assists are going to go down. They're going to go back to what they were a little bit earlier in his career without Jason Tatum alongside, without a Porzingis sort of two-man game to work with. Part of that maybe will depend on whether Simons is, with this team. I think the rebounds will probably be about where they've been throughout his career. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it, and Jared said this too, it comes down to, if they're playing the same way, and is Joe going to shake it up or not? But if they're playing the same way, what's the 3-point volume look like? What's the 3-point percentage look like? That is going to dramatically impact how many points per game he averages and all of that. I hope he's as ready for it as he says he is. And we've seen, as Jaylen Brown has matured, and a lot of the sort of bravado in interviews, especially when he's exceedingly comfortable, whether it was talking to Kyrie Irving recently or going back X number of years to when he was doing that, memed out Taylor Rooks interview about how they're going to win, what 5 titles in 7 years or some crazy number that he gave. I want to see what it looks like. And I will say, I don't think it helps him much, Jared, knowing that the roster is sort of forever in flux. And when I say forever, I mean like for the next year, the roster is in flux. Like right now, this team is not thinking about contending, barring some miracle, in 2026. They're thinking about winning a championship in 2027. And what pieces do we need to maneuver along the way that get us there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing we're going to see this season is teams tend to have a relatively short shelf life in the NBA for how long they can be viable and how long you can go with the same approach and the same roster. And I think this season, one of the things we're going to examine is, does it even make sense to keep all these guys together anymore and still operate a similar system to what we're seeing out of the Celtics these last few years? Like, we know the scheme is going to be different. They don't have the personnel to run the scheme that they were running before. They're going to have to change some things. I mean, that's not fair. They can do a decent amount of what they were doing, but they're going to have to change a lot of what they were doing. And also, the league is evolving now to different play styles, and they're probably going to want to ride that train a little bit as well. So I think this year it's going to be not just a matter of like do you go back to JT kind of thing. It's going to be this whole collection of Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, and I guess that's it. There's nobody else. Sam Hauser. There's nobody else really that was there before. It's so different now. We're going to see, like, now that you're transitioning and you've lost so much of your roster, do you continue to try to kind of get back what you had before, or do you want to continue to move away from it? And that's, I think, what we're going to see a lot of next year. And so that means a lot of a litmus test on Derek White. Like, how is Derek White's end of his prime going to look? I presume very good. I've always been a pretty big D White guy. He's continued to evolve. He's amazing. Like, one of the best hits that this franchise has had in the last 20 years. Is Pritchard going to turn into a high-level starting caliber point guard, presuming that Simons gets moved and they put him into the starting lineup, or they just put Simons on the bench and they start Pritchard? Who knows at this point? But, like, there's a lot of evaluation happening here where the outcome could be that they just get rid of everybody, they just move on from everybody, and they kind of start all over. Like, they don't have to keep everything together. They probably will keep D White I don't know why on earth you would ever get rid of Pritchard with the contract that he's on, and Hauser, if they can keep him and they don't have to salary dump him, it's like, yeah, you might as well keep him around. He's a good value player. But like this, there's nothing is tied down for this franchise anymore. Between the second apron and Jason Tatum's injury, like that unbolted everything, and it's all just kind of floating around, and they're trying to figure out, what do we save? And I don't think we should count on anything being a lock for them to save.
If we got a few minutes left before we wrap up this show, why don't I'll let you take Jared to Vegas for us. Summer League, a little. We can have a full on debrief when Summer League is over, but some of your thoughts along the way.
We were kind of talking pre-show a little bit about the Summer League Celtic experience. I have like three really quick points. One, Hugo Gonzalez gives me like, Jared, you ever see the Mighty Ducks 2?
I saw it when I was like 6 years old. So
how dare you not remember the Mighty Ducks 2?
It
was actually D2, the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, it's an iconic film.
Rewatch it.
It's there's a particular player on the Mighty Ducks 2 who his name's, I think it's Luis Mendoza, who skates really fast but can't stop. Hugo gives me like a little bit of that vibe every once in a while. I get there's a lot of attractive things about him, but like there's that. But like the bigger point is, are there really rotation pieces on this team? And the answer is like kind of maybe. With the way that Shireman has shot the ball, hasn't gone well. I think he's doing too much, which I think for a second year guy, where you expect to be that kind of the top dog, and just you're taking too much on your shoulders. He's doing too much. Meanwhile, like I'll say, Walsh has done pretty well. He hasn't tried to force too much stuff, and he's just kind of letting the game come to him, and he's kind of fitting in wherever he needs to. That's the only, like, if I had to pick one thing, the only encouraging thing I think from Summer League has been Jordan Walsh looks like somebody who's ready for a more responsibility. And to Jared's point, like they're going to really need him because they're just going to be so thin everywhere, especially like on the wing without Jason Tatum. Like there's going to be a lot of minutes to go around. So, as we get ready for the Summer League to shut down, I don't have an awesome feeling about things. Like Amari Williams, like cool, he great pass every once in a while. He's 7 feet tall, so that's cool. But I don't have like the warmest, fuzziest feeling about this big. Like I can't watch Kenny Lofton play basketball anymore. Like I just don't. it like literally rips the joy out of my soul. I don't know about you guys. I just can't do it anymore.
I love how Valenti's like, I'm not sure about this, and then the phone starts ringing. Brad's like,
yeah,
shut up, Valenti, don't let him know.
Brad's on my ass right now for sure.
Yeah, I can't watch Kenny Lofton anymore. It's and I was sitting courtside for a lot of his minutes, and man, watching him bulldoze through people, it's really fun. But it's just, you're just like, oh, you're gonna do this again. You're just gonna put your head down and keep dribbling and just try to like hammer your way through. It's just like it shuts everything down. And like I like the guy, and I like that he has found a very like ironic style of play that I haven't seen in like 35 years. But like it's not conducive. It's not doable at an NBA level. He should go to Europe and score 20 points per game in the second division of Italy and work his way up from there or something like that. And I mean, he's probably a first division player, but like he's not at the NBA level right now. Like he does not have the finesse to his game. It's just lower his head and just bulldoze through people. That's not going to work against an NBA defense. He's going to get stripped immediately over and over again. He was having trouble
right now. He's getting stripped in Summer League.
He was having trouble maintaining his dribble in like open space when he was doing this, because it's just too hard to play the way that he plays. It's just not going to work. Did you guys know he scored 42 in a game though? They keep reminding everybody of that Kenny Lofton scored 42 in an NBA game. Did he score 42 in a game? Like a game at some point? Like I've scored 42 in a game at some point in my life.
No, like, I think he did against the Lakers when he was on Memphis. I think is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was playing pickup against a bunch of 5-year-olds, so it was a little bit easier for me.
A little different.
Lower hoop.
Although maybe he was that night too. I don't know. Jordan Walsh is like the only player that I feel positively about coming out of Summer League, because his feel for attacking with the ball has gotten a lot better. You can just see that his footwork patterns are smoother now. He has more control when he starts to go downhill. I mean, I remember his first Summer League. Like he would try to go downhill. It was such a disaster because he would take these big long strides, which is great. That's what you want. But then like it would just be like straight into a brick wall. And it was such a mess. And you can see now he's like got like a little bit more variety to the way that he moves. It allows him to be a little bit smoother getting to the hole. We've seen a few nice drives that weren't just kind of straight downhill line drives, like a little bit of creativity to it. I think he's getting to the point that he can probably play some rotation minutes and, you know, and look somewhat decent out there. And obviously the driving lanes are different when you're in the NBA. Like I think one thing that changes is that you do get open driving lanes in the NBA, but when you do, the rotating big at the rim is a lot more difficult to score on. Teams are stripping you and they're going for those strips and they're a lot better at it. They're taking away those passing lanes more effectively. Those are like some of the differences that you get from Summer League. So it's going to be harder for him to make those rim reads when he's in the NBA. But I think we saw enough these past couple of weeks to say like, you know, I think he could probably do it. He probably could be the ninth man for this team.
All right, we'll wrap with this one here, Jared. A guy we spent a lot of time on, last week with Greeny, I think, Ev? Charles Bassey, future Celtics power forward, starting center, or, is the tenure over after his little Summer League sample size?
Yeah, it's interesting because he could only play like 3 games for them, and then he had to do something else, which I'm not sure what it is at this point.
We all got plans.
So, yeah, we all got plans. And so I didn't see enough to make me think that he's going to make the roster necessarily, but they could use another center. I don't think he showed that he's better than Keita, and Garza and Keita will probably fight for the starting minutes. I've seen Xavier Tillman slotted into that position. I don't think people have noticed Xavier Tillman has barely played for the Celtics these last few years. I love that Xavier Tillman trade when they made it because I really liked his game in Memphis, but he's been washed since he got to Boston, and I'd like to see that change because he's a really wonderful guy and he can do some stuff that would be useful for the team. But they need length. Like their center can't be 6'6", especially with right now Niang is their starting 4 and he's relatively undersized and doesn't play above the rim. Like they need somebody that can play above the rim. Jaylen Brown cannot be their best rim protector. So Keita is most likely going to get the starting nod. Bassey looked okay. He looked okay. But there's a reason why they went and they got the GOAT, Luke Cornett. It's because they needed an upgrade in San Antonio. And I would sign him to the 15th roster spot if you can, just because they need any bite at the apple they can get at the 5 spot, and there's not really a better option out there. But I didn't get a lot of indication from Summer League that he clearly has locked that down.
Ed, parting thoughts?
No, not really. That was pretty well said. I as someone who again continue to just watch every step Gonzalez takes. It's gonna take a while. I think he needs a lot of seasoning.
Hashtag bring Bassey to Boston. That is my final thought. Jared from The Athletic, of course, covers the NBA, does a great job doing so, appears on shows just like this one. He is on Twitter at Jared Weiss NBA. Make sure you check him out there and read his work, both in The Athletic and, of course, in the New York Times as well. Jared, we always appreciate when you hop on with us. And, yeah, man, look, August is right around the corner.
I can't wait for that next month. It's August. Thrilled for it.
It's coming, guys. August. Man, football. Yeah, football. All right. For Ev, for Jared, I'm Adam. We thank you. Hopefully you learned a little something new along the way. We will talk to you again next week.